Welcome to Mr. Biz Radio, biz talk for biz owners. If you're ready to stop faking the funk and take your business onward and upward, this show is for you. And now, here's Mr. Biz, Ken Wentworth.
All right, welcome to another episode of Mr. Biz Radio with me, Mr. Biz, Ken Wentworth. We're going to talk about something this week, guys. The importance of, first of all, self-leadership, how learning plays a role in that, and how you need to be a constant learner. I've learned that, especially not only during my corporate career, but even after I left the corporate career and started my own business. And it's like, man, you got to constantly be evolving and learning. And what am I weak in right now? And, you know, what do I need to get up to speed on? And always seeking out those new things, and frankly, getting uncomfortable and being vulnerable sometimes, and self-assessing those things. And then we're going to take that sort of as we get further into the show and talk about how do we utilize some of those things to not only attract great superstar employees, but also how to retain them. Super important. I mean, everyone's talking, especially since the pandemic, it's been so difficult, it seems, in almost every industry and clients I've been talking with, of finding good people, first of all. And then you hear the horror stories of, oh my gosh, we put out a posting and we got 100 people in the first 3 days. And we had to interview 20 people before we found one good person. How can we sort of weed those things down? And we've talked about those a little bit here and there on the show, but really how to have an eye out for that talent and the superpowers and that you need on your team, and how to develop a well-rounded team. And then again, like I said, how to retain it, because getting superstars is great. If you don't keep superstars, I don't know. I'm gonna say something painful here. I'm a Pittsburgh Pirates fan. Anyone who knows baseball knows the Pirates have had talent, but they can't freaking keep them. They lose them. They develop superstars, and the Dodgers, sign them, or the Yankees sign them, or one of these, big money clubs sign them. And so, what good does it do? They don't have long-term success because they're not able to retain the talent. And that's what we're going to talk about. And our guest this week is Mr. Doug Schmidt. He is the author, and we're going to talk a little bit about his book as well, The Power of Self-Leadership. You can find out more about everything he's got going on. We'll put this in the show notes as well, but douglaslschmidt.com. Doug, welcome to Mr. Biz Radio.
Great, thank you. I'm so excited to talk to you in this podcast today about these important subjects, especially in today's challenging environment we live in today.
Yeah, so I was looking back when I was prepping for the show, and I'm like, holy crap, it's been about 3 months since we actually booked you on the show, because I remember I was starting to go through my notes, and I'm like, I remember, Doug, like, how long ago was this? And it's been like almost 3 months since we originally booked you. So I've been looking forward to having this conversation with you. Before we start diving into all those different things, though, Doug, tell us a little bit about your journey, your entrepreneurial journey, your career journey, sort of how you got to where you're at now.
Well, it's funny. This goes back to my first high school jobs. I was a dishwasher at a local delicatessen. So that's where I started to, I made $1.60 an hour. And that's when I developed a work ethic. And my dad was a great worker too. He's a very hard worker. So I learned the work ethic from him. And then from washing dishes, actually in college, I started a moving landscape business. I made enough money to buy a van. And with this van, I started moving furniture, refrigerators, small apartments, and also had a lawnmower. So in addition to doing the moving, I had a lawn mowing business. So that paid 100% of my college education.
Oh, so nice.
So that started my interest in entrepreneur and having my own business. After I went out of school or left school, went to Penn State, BS in finance, I went into corporate sales. So my primarily corporate business background is business to business marketing and sales, or mostly sales, selling mostly technology products. I've sold laptops, technology, software as a service, consulting services, mostly in Fortune 500 companies. And what I learned from that is it's so important to be prepared professionally. That sales is a profession. It's not for amateur hours. And it takes, and this goes back to the training and learning, it takes a consistent discipline and methodology. We always be learning the profession and discipline of sales. And I go my background, I've had some great success in selling, and I've also failed. I haven't made quota. And it's interesting too, looking back, one of the things I learned is we can learn from both.
Sure.
That learning is learning from both success, what went well, what did I do well, and also failure. What didn't go well? Why did this product, or why did people buy this product? So for me, it's so important to understand that being both successful in selling and also failing, they're both learning experiences. In fact, there's a great book, and when I first read this book, I hated it. There's a great book by Ryan Holiday, The Obstacles in the Way. And what his theory is that we learn many times more from our obstacles than our extreme successes. And that overcome these obstacles and the challenges, when we take them head on, helps us develop what I call a growth and grit mindset. And that's part of the premise of my book. So, again, my background is mostly sales, mostly in the enterprise. And again, I've had great success and I've also failed. And the important lesson in both success and failure is to learn from both.
Yeah, I love that. And I learned, it's funny you mentioned that, Doug. So I learned, well, actually, you know what? First of all, I have to ask. So you got your undergrads in finance. What
Right.
made you, did you go get through college and go, man, I really don't want to do this finance thing to go into
Well,
sales?
actually, I'm good at I'm good with numbers. I was always good in numbers in school. So that's a strength of mine. But I didn't really want to go into the banking or finance route. I just went to the sales route, and that really applied to more of my personality than doing strict finance. Now, and I realized too is that finance and accounting are so important in running a business. They're critical. As I think you mentioned before in a previous podcast, cash is king. So whatever business is that, cash is king. And I've run out of cash. In fact, when I ran out of cash, the broker I got, the dumber I got. So that's one of the philosophies we have is always have enough cash on hand in emergency, cash on hand just in case of emergency, because something always going to happen. It's always going to be unexpected.
Yeah, you don't have cash, don't have a business. Something else you mentioned that really resonated with me as well is once I left the corporate world. I mean, I was in mostly finance related CFO jobs and things like that in my corporate career, and then I got out, start my own business, and now I got to be a salesperson, and I'm not a salesperson, right? And so I'd never been, I should say. I would argue that we're all salespeople, right? People don't realize it, but every single person on the face of the earth is a salesperson. And the easiest example I could use, especially if you're a parent, or if you've been a parent or you are a parent, you're a salesperson because you're trying to convince your kid to eat the green beans. You're trying to, you're selling. That's a form of selling. I think people don't realize that, but is the preparation. I'll show up because I've always learned that, that preparation is super important, especially with, high level meetings and things like that. So when I would show up to a prospective client, I've already done a ton of research. I know everything about them. And they would make the comment like, oh my gosh, like you already know all this stuff about us, because the bar is so low because most people don't freaking do that. And I think that's a big missing thing. We got to hit a break here, Doug. We're going to come back. We're talking with Doug Schmidt. We're going to talk more about self-leadership.
If you would like to reach hundreds of thousands of business owners every week, Mr. Biz Radio can help. Our show airs globally 7 days a week for more than 25 hours across several internet radio stations, plus 20 plus podcast platforms. Also, video exposure on the new exclusive Mr. Biz Network streaming channel, which gets blasted to 100 plus streaming platforms, and the Mr. Biz YouTube channel, and our 350,000 social media followers multiple times every week. Join Mr. Biz Nation as an advertiser by emailing us at info@MrBizSolutions.com.
Attention, Mr. Biz Nation. We have an exclusive offer just for you. Get lifetime access to Scarcity Countdown timers and logic links for only $69. Yes, you heard it right. Only $69. These tools will add urgency to your email campaigns and website pages, helping you increase conversions, sales, and capture more leads. Don't miss this incredible opportunity. Visit GetPulseTools.com now and take your business to new heights.
Check out all 3 of Mr. Biz's best-selling books at MrBizBooks.com. Now, once again, here's Mr. Biz.
All right, welcome back to the show again, talking with Doug Schmidt this week. So Doug, we talked a little about your background, and you were in sales and predominantly selling mostly, technology things, as you'd mentioned. What led to the book? So the Power of Self-Leadership. If you're watching, you can see Doug's got it in his background on the screen. But if you're listening, again, the Power of Self-Leadership. What led you after how many years of experience did you get and you start to develop this and say, man, I got a book here, or I need to get this out?
Well, the way it started, my background is mostly 30 years of sales experience, mostly selling technology to the enterprise. And I didn't really think I was an author. That was not my goal.
Same.
So what happened? That wasn't a goal of mine. But what happened was a few years ago, I worked out with a guy named John in the gym, and he would come in very early in the morning, like 5:30 in the morning, leave 6:30. And my friend said, hey, this guy John, who didn't say a lot, worked out and left, I was getting deployed to Afghanistan in the military. So we did some nice things for him. We got him some money, an MP3 player, babysitting for his wife, and a camera when he got deployed. I didn't think anything of it. So 3 months later, I was sitting at my desk. I get this letter, a white envelope from Afghanistan. I'm going, who's this from? Right, who's that? Huh? So I opened up the letter, and it was this gentleman, John. And what I did, I read the letter, and he was interviewed by WHYY in Philadelphia. And I read a letter. I said, this guy's a world-class leader. He's a great leader. So when he came back from Afghanistan, I went to his office. He had hundreds of books. And the one book, he had a lot of books. And the one book he opened up was the book called The Power of Communication by Helio Fred Garcia. He opened it up and it was dog-eared and had writing all over it. So I go, hey, this guy's a reader and a learner. And for me to hang out with him and to earn the right to hang out with him, I better be a reader or a learner. So what he did is he gave me a book to read called Making the Core. So thankfully, I read the book. Then he gave me another one, A Chance in Hell. And the third book he was in, called A Soldier's Dream by William Doyle, was the Battle of Vermont in 2006. He was in the most dangerous place on earth, in Ramadi. So I took a book called Smart Thinking by Art Markman and correlated what was in this book called A Soldier's Dream. And I looked at, hey, these are all the various disciplines you can become what I'll call a smart leader. So that was the premise of the book. And I looked at, the book is that I looked at what are my talents, strengths, and superpowers? Because if you're in the military, you want to have people that have their best talents and strengths, whatever the mission they're on. That's just a simple thing to understand. And also too, I reframe people's thinking. I want to frame it. You're on the journey. You're a hero on a journey. It's kind of like I use Joseph Campbell's The Myth of the Hero's Journey. And so I took that and I looked at, in this book, what are your talents, strengths, and superpowers? I used a book called Do What You Are by Tiger and Barron, which is related to the Myers-Briggs concept you mentioned in an earlier podcast. Define what that is. Learning was the superpower, that learning is such a critical thing, that learning gets us in the game. And I read another, so here I am with these great leaders. I'm going like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? I read another great book called Learning How to Learn by Barbara Oakley. She worked with a guy named Terry Stanowski out of Princeton, and they developed learning methodologies based on how the neuroscience of our brains. So what that enabled me to do is develop learning as a superpower. And that was a critical thing for me to understand, that learning, and then learning got me in the game with these world-class leaders. And then I studied other people. My friend's a great drummer. He's a learner too. So I said, hey, I can do that. Anybody can become a learner. And that's part of self-leadership, that if I have the self-motivation to be a learner, I'm in the game. Doesn't mean I win, but I'm in the game. So that's the premise of my book. And I talk about what obstacles in your way, how to use obstacles to your advantage, how to develop a growth and grit mindset, how to develop mental strength. Also to toxic people, how to identify and, if we can, stay away from toxic people. So that's basically the premise of the book. And I got lucky. I had great role models to model the concept of self-leadership, because all these people that achieve, they have self-leadership capabilities, whether you're an athlete, whether you're in the military, whether you're an accountant, whatever. So that's basically why I wrote this book, and based on my own experience too. Both of my successes and failures and obstacles I've encountered.
Yeah, it's interesting, Doug. So I don't know. I guess I don't know if I was born with it or I just had this thing even when I was a young kid of figuring out, and I talked about it in my last book of I've got the SMAC methodology, and the M in it is model expert behavior, and that is it's learning, right? Find someone, whatever you're trying to achieve, and find someone who's an expert in that, who's already been there, done that. Read all their books, watch their videos, watch their TED Talk, all those things, and just absorb it to learn, because that can accelerate your path to success. If you're trying to run your first marathon, let's say, and you're not a runner, find some runners, read some running books, educate yourself, continually learn, because you're going to be able to sidestep a lot of the normal, travails challenges you're going to face if you're trying to do this on your own. And that just helps accelerate your path so much, and really absorbing as much as you can from these people. And it sounds like that's what you did with this guy, John, is just being around people like that and learning from them. And it's inspiring, and it leads you to be more like whatever that person is that you're trying to, you're modeling their behavior or whatnot.
Yeah, here's another thing I learned with these great leaders or role models. They're not unreachable.
Right.
I've contacted a lot of high performing people, and what I do is I send them personalized thank you notes. And it's amazing what a personalized thank you note does, because most people, that's another thing, a lot of people don't do it.
I don't.
And hey, I call it leadership lessons from a third grader. Thank you, appreciation, gratitude, share your toys, share information, introduce your friends. So I use personalized thank you letters in my network, and that's one of my other superpowers are. And I tell students all the time is, if you're a student, you have an advantage, because most people who write books or are subject matter experts, they're teachers. They like to teach students. So a lot of these people are not they're not unobtainable. They're reachable if we use proper thank you, appreciation, gratitude is what I use all the time. It's just amazing how that works. So role models are critical, especially today.
Yeah. I mean, I was just thinking, when I started this show, when I first started working with producer Alan 8+ years ago, I did the first show. I listened to it. It was absolutely horrendous. And I said, I got to get better at this. And so I reached out to 4 nationally syndicated radio show hosts. As Steve Jobs once said, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. Worst thing that could happen is they don't get back to me. I ended up on the phone with 2 of them. I emailed back and forth with one. One didn't respond, but I had basically a 75% hit rate. Learned a bunch of stuff, hopefully accelerated becoming a better host faster. So that was a very, very meaningful thing for me. Guys, we're going to hit a break again. We're going to come back again. We're going to talk about how to attract and retain superstar employees.
How would you like to have direct access to Mr. Biz to help you run your business more profitably and more efficiently? At MrBizSolutions.com, you get live access to not only Mr. Biz, but also several of his hand-picked and trusted business experts, each with 20+ years of experience to help you optimally manage and grow your business. That's just the start of where Mr. Biz Solutions begins. Learn more at MrBizSolutions.com. That's MrBizSolutions.com.
Attention, Mr. Biz Nation. We have an exclusive offer just for you. Get lifetime access to scarcity countdown timers and logic links for only $69. Yes, you heard it right. Only $69. These tools will add urgency to your email campaigns and website pages, helping you increase conversions, sales, and capture more leads. Don't miss this incredible opportunity. Visit getpulsetools.com now and take your business to new heights.
Got a question for Mr. Biz you want answered on air? Email it to info@MrBizSolutions.com. Now, once again, here's Mr. Biz.
All right, welcome back to the show. Talking this week with Mr. Doug Schmidt. He is the author of The Power of Self-Leadership. You can find out more at his website, DouglasLSchmidt.com. That's DouglasLSchmidt.com. So, Doug, how do we take some of these things that we've been talking about? And I'm thinking about, business owners, entrepreneurs that are out there that are listening or watching the show that are hiring people and maybe struggling with hiring people. What are some of those things that we can do to attract and retain, the superstar employees? Like some of the things you had mentioned, like identifying those talents, strengths, and superpowers. What are some things we can do that maybe some practical tips on it to do that?
Let me start out with one great source that I took years ago when I was really struggling with my career. There's a great book called Do What You Are by Tiger, Tieger, and Barron, Barron. And what that does is, you're in a previous podcast, if you take a Myers-Briggs assessment, which you can take for free, basically it breaks down your personality profile. You're an extrovert, introvert, are you a thinker, feeler, are you judgmental, or that's not a really good term. Do you want stuff finished, or you keep giving ideas? Are you intuitive or sensitive? So it breaks it down. And if you take this assessment, it'll break down all the 16 personality profiles. And within that book, it'll give each person's strengths, weaknesses, and kind of a framework of what kind of careers they would be good at. So that's a great tool and assessment to give you a framework to understand what drives this person. So, for example, for me, I tend to be ENTJ, right? Oh, so we're pretty similar as far as that. So if you mentioned before you had only ENTJs in your business, that's not good. That's a horrible thing. So we want to take a look at what, for example, an accountant would have generally a different profile than a salesperson. So we can take assessments. If I'm looking for an accountant, I'm looking for the personality profile that fits what an accountant would be. So if I can give it a Myers-Briggs assessment, hey, this is the type of person we need. Typically, accountants are sensors. They're not intuitive people. So I need a sensor. They generally, typically, they're introverts versus extroverts, right? They're thinkers versus feelers, and they're J's typically. So I can take these assessments, good idea. Hey, this person fits. This framework fits into what this personality's profile is. And let me take this to that responsibility is on both the employee and the employer. We both need to work together. And I tell employees all the time is, look, rather than you guessing what your talent, strengths, and superpowers are, if you go into an organization, you know what they are, you're in a better position to say, hey, look, these are my 4 or 5 talents, strengths, and superpowers. Does my persona fit in your roles and responsibilities and in your culture? And if it doesn't, that's okay. But this is what I'm really good at. I'll tell you, the biggest mistake I made was not knowing that. And I got environments going, what am I doing here? My talents are not being used here.
And I think, another thing, if I can add, Doug, is what I found in my corporate career was, as I started to lead people and the teams got bigger and bigger, was it helped me as a leader knowing what personality types people were, because those different personality types, and I love Myers-Briggs, by the way. If any of you guys that are watching or listening, you haven't taken it, again, you can do it. I'm sure you can look it up and you can take it free. Be prepared to have your mind blown. The first time I took it, and I'm an ENTJ, and it'll, like Doug mentioned, it'll say, well, all the 16 different combinations, it'll tell you, well, if you're an ENTJ, again, like Doug mentioned, these are things you're good at. You would typically do this, and you would typically do that, and you might be bad at this. I read it, and I said, holy crap, did someone follow me around for the last 6 months and write this out? It was me to almost exactly a T. It was mind blowing. But what I was starting to say is it helped me to know, and I developed my team, like we were talking about, not having everyone the same type. Super important to have a balanced team, but it also helped me on those different types are motivated in different ways. Some of those types need a swift kick in the rear end when they're not pulling their weight. Other types, if you give them a swift kick in the rear end, they're going to fold like a cheap suit and you're going to lose them. Like they're just going to be like, they're going to be super emotional and they're not going to be able to take that. They need the attaboys and things like that. Whereas, certain types, you give them too many attaboys and they're like, man, I'm just doing my job. This is, not motivating. And so it's really important as a leader to even know the folks underneath you, not only as like Doug's talking about, is building the team and looking for those talents and strengths and superpowers, but making sure you understand how to interact, how to communicate, how to motivate. And what I got that, and that became almost like a superpower for me, I think, because when someone would leave my leadership team, I would instantly say, okay, well, I'm losing these two key characteristics. We only have one other person that's that's an F. I need to hire someone who's an F on the Myers-Briggs to help balance the team out, and it was so powerful. It just was, it's such an easy, simple thing, but having that good combination of people was so powerful, made my job so much easier, frankly.
Yeah, I think too, what's great about this do what you are kind of, the Myers-Briggs do what you are is like, I'll give you an example. I'm an extrovert, right? I talk a lot. So I'll tell introverts, look, if I talk too much, just tell me to shut up.
Right.
Right. And I'm not offended. I'm not offended by it because it's not going to change. Just, hey, Doug, shut up for a while. I'm not offended. So I think good too. It's good to recognize again, I think it's good to emphasize our strengths, but hey, understand what our weaknesses are too. So if I'm a leader, hey, if I'm weak in this area, let's not make this a mystery for our employees. Let's go. Hey, Doug, your ENTJ is a little bit off the charts today. You need to chill out a little bit and be self-aware and not be offended by it. Hey, guys, you're right. I'm a little bit too overboard right now. So that it's such a critical thing today. And then if we understand people's personas, it's better to motivate people and easier to motivate people because we understand what drives them and what roles and responsibilities that they fit best in. I'll give you another example.
You got a project coming up and you're like, man, who can I give this project to? To your point, Doug, like what are the specific skills that are going to be necessary to be successful in this particular project? Well, this is Doug, or this is Ken, or this is Alan, or this is whoever. And by the way, Betty does not have the right skill set. She's a fantastic employee. Right. She is just not, her skills don't align with what is going to need to be successful. It doesn't mean she's a bad employee. It just means not for this particular thing.
No. And the more we constantly understand that, it's just a better organization. I'll give you another example. My friend's a great drummer. He worked with Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, Diana Ross. He's a drummer. He's not a piano player, right? He's not a guitarist. He's not a singer. He's a drummer. That's his superpower. So if I'm developing a band, a team of people, I'm not going to have him doing keyboards. Right. That's not his job. He's a drummer. That's his superpower. I'm not going to ask him. That's what he's really good at. And I think the challenge today is for leaders to figure out, hey, what's this person really good at? And let's put him in the spots where he's going to be good at and excel versus trying to, oh, he's a square peg. Let's put him in a round hole. It just doesn't work. I mean, it's
part of that, I think, is developing that learning culture and putting people in the spots where they're going to be successful. They're going to stay because they're going to really enjoy their jobs. They're not going to get sick of their jobs. They're going to enjoy the challenges. They're going to enjoy the successes of being successful. Everyone enjoys being successful. Yes. No one likes doing things they're not good at, right? So critically important to be able to do that. And it's a simple thing, but I think it's something that gets missed so often. Unfortunately, we're out of time here, Doug, but I really appreciate you coming on the show. It was fantastic.
Good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a fantastic rest of your week. And don't forget, as always, cash flow is king.
To become part of Mr. Biz Nation, follow him on all social media platforms or never miss a show by going to MrBizRadio.com. If you prefer free video content, visit the Mr. Biz YouTube channel or check out his streaming channel, which is available on 100 plus streaming platforms at MrBizNetwork.com.